Hello and welcome to Off the Beat and Track podcast. I'm your host, I'm Stu Whiffen. It's another week, therefore it's another episode. Today's episode, I'm joined by Ian Pickering. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, Stuart. I'm great. Yes, very good.
Wonderful. Where are you today, mate?
I am in the north of France, in the city of Lille,
Oh,
which
lovely.
is not so far from the coast, about an hour from Calais, maybe, and 10 minutes from the Belgian border. The weather's just like London. Is that
Right.
where you are? Are you London?
Just outside in Essex, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yes, cool, cool.
You
Yeah.
don't sound very French, Ian. I've got to level with you, mate.
I'm not French at all. No, I'm from England. I'm from
We'll get into that.
Hartlepool.
We'll get into that. I want to know all about
Yeah.
your formative
Yeah.
years. But as ever,
Yeah.
we're going to kick off the playlist with the first track, and I'm going to ask you, please, to tell me the song in that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
The song with the greatest ever intro. Uh, for me, it was I ended up choosing "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" by Pink Floyd. Uh, basically, it could have been so many things. I think my wife ended up choosing "Riders on the Storm,"
Yeah, that's
for example,
great.
by the Doors, and it's like it's like that. Every time someone asked me, what my favorite song was, I was DJing a bit when I was drunk, like back at home sometimes when I used to drink. It was like, oh, this is the best song in the world, and then 10 minutes later, oh, this is the best song in the world. But it's difficult to choose because it's going to lead to a brilliant song, and you
Yeah,
know that from the introduction. But with Pink Floyd, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, it's so long for the stars, and it builds into it is an incredible album, Wish You Were Here. Uh, and I just remember I went to Alton Towers after I'd finished my A levels when I was 18 years old. Only time I've ever been to Alton Towers. And on the shuttle train from the car parks to the actual amusements, this is what it played. And I knew
yeah.
it, but I was just kind of blown away that Alton Towers would do that. And it was quite reverential. It was just a bizarre experience. So it made me think of that. What would you have picked?
Well, I did answer these questions myself when I started this show 6 years ago, whenever it was, and I mean, you also in some of the notes I got over, there was a couple of honorable mentions. I see you threw "Lose My Religion" in there, um,
Yeah, yeah.
which is something that's going to kind of sort of lead on to a question in a moment. But I'm a ridiculously huge REM fan, and
Yeah.
I think they're not shy of a good intro, even from like So Central Rain right the way through a drive and
Ah,
stuff like that. It's just unbelievable intros. But for
yeah.
me,
100%. Yeah.
I'd probably lean on. I really like the little vocal, the voiceover, and then the drum drop in of "Fight the Power" by Public Enemy. I just think
Yeah, yes.
it's
Yes.
and it's really weird because I wouldn't say I'm the biggest hip hop fan on the planet. I'm very
No.
much an alternative guitar guy,
Yeah.
um, but hip hop has some really amazing intros, and I think they get sort
Yeah.
of overlooked on this podcast a little bit. But the question I want
Yeah. I wish I'd thought. Yes. Yes, I'd thought that.
the question I was actually going to throw at you, Ian, was something like "Lose My Religion" is so ba da 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 dum, and you're in,
Yeah.
and it's so quick, and whereas you mentioned "Riders on the Storm" and "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," both got these epic, drawn out intros, and
Yeah.
so with your music in we live on a planet now where the generations that come through are getting their music from this thing in their hand, and they're probably swiping rapidly right, and the attention spans are getting tighter and smaller. Um, and so, does any of that sort of factor into your sort of creative process with essentially intros, I guess, to your music?
Uh, I, it's it's very rare that I kind of do something indulgent. I think
Yeah,
even staying with Pink Floyd, even despite those intros, by the time you get to the wall, for Roger Waters, the song is as long as it needs to be, and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And I think that's true. Once I haven't, because I'm a lyricist fundamentally, once the lyrics are done, it depends what kind of mood I'm in
Sure.
for the introduction and the outro and how long it is. But you know, once I've said what I want to say, it's
Yeah.
kind of over and out, if you like.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I have done some long intros.
Yeah.
But when the Sneaker Pimps were kind of at just at the kind of second album period, uh, someone in the industry, I can't remember, we were getting a taxi somewhere,
Yeah.
and he said, "Well, you know, the thing is, songs should be 3 minutes and 24 seconds long.
Specific.
That's the optimum." And I kept that in my
Yeah.
head for all these years. And whenever I get close to that, I go, there you go, that's the
Yeah.
job done. But
But I do get it. I do get the perfect pop single or whatever you want to call it. And I think, I sort of lent heavily on sort of technology and saying that, these attention spans are getting smaller. But you go back to the 60s and it was "Don't Bore Us, Get Us to the Chorus," that kind of, all the early Beatles stuff, all of
yeah,
the Motown. It was short, concise pop songs, and Motown definitely done a lot of what you're seeing now in these kind of Swedish songwriting production houses that are putting out this almost the science of a perfect pop record, or whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
But I think, you know, Berry Gordy would start with the chorus a lot of the time and and pull you in straight away.
Yeah. I mean, there's craft to the process of songwriting. I just think it's best to not go with the craft. A lot of the time, I go with how it's played. It should be 4 bars, but I've been playing the guitar, I've got lost, and it's 7 bars. And
Yeah,
I just write to fit that. I can't be bothered to do it again. I,
absolutely.
accidents are fabulous, you know, and it kind of happens in every area,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. I'm going to ask you for your second track, and for that, Ian, can you tell me the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please?
Yeah, I kept, as soon as I read Emotional Impact, I kept thinking, oh my God, I can't remember crying at a song for a long, long time in my life. And I went, oh, I could be happy. I could be very over the moon.
Absolutely.
Uh, so in the end, I went for the Boomtown Rats, and I kept having to look up the timings of everything and whether it was a good memory or whether I'd somehow filled in blanks.
Mm.
But the Boomtown Rats, because we used to go every summer, me and my brother and my two closest cousins in age, Stephen and Nick, we would be sent down to family to give our parents a bit of a break. So we would end up at my Auntie Pat's for 2 weeks down in Bedford. Uh, and this was number one at the time that
Mm.
summer. Uh, so we were down there, that was number one. And I just remember we loved it from the intro. We jumped around all over the sofa, singing, pretending to play. I was very happy. I mean, it's not a happy subject, but it's a really great song,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
Remind me, the narrative of the song is it about a school shooting?
It's about yeah, girl, a
Yeah,
teenage girl who went in and kind of, yeah, shot a load of schoolmates. I think it was the first big instance we heard of
yeah, yeah.
that,
Mm.
you know. I would have been about 8 years old or
Yeah.
something.
It's
Uh,
it's it's a cracking tune, though, isn't it? It's an
is
absolute
great.
cracker, and I don't think time has been that kind to the Boomtown Rats. I think in regards to sort of people citing them as influences and things like that. I think they kind of fell in a sort of a strange time, almost between sort of punk and post punk, and I think they sort of sat a little bit with
Yeah,
pub rock, and I think they just sort of. I don't know. I mean, you listen to Rat Trap, and it's an absolute cracker of a single.
yeah. I think they got caught out with
Yeah,
a
yeah,
fashion change and an image change. And it's
yeah,
like, if they'd come around in the Nirvana era, maybe they
yeah,
would have had more longevity. But
yeah,
I was confused because they had the album, then they had the song Banana Republic and the other album. And after that, they started. And that was my first inkling of, oh, this doesn't last forever. You can
yeah,
just be number one and then unpopular.
yeah.
didn't learn that during the 90s, but thought that was just going to keep going forever, you know? Really, how naive.
So you said you were shipped off to your Auntie Pat's in Bedford to give your folks a break.
Yeah.
I want to take you back home before we move on to the next track, and tell me a little bit about formative years. Where did you grow up, and tell us a bit about home. Was it a musical environment?
Uh, home was in Hartlepool. Uh, I'm the only person born in Hartlepool in my family, I think. I don't think my brother was. He might well have been, but my father and my family are all from the northwest, the Lake District, somewhere near Barrow-in-Furness, if you know that. Um, but Hartlepool's a little place. The nearest big city is Newcastle,
Yep.
which is where we used to go on the weekends to the record shops and everything like that. Uh, but no, he was pretty depressed. You don't know that as a kid, but by the time you're a teenager in the 80s and Thatcher's closing down the mines and there's not really any industry. They used to build ships, but it was just what it was. It was your hometown.
Yeah.
You love it and loathe it in equal measure half the
Absolutely.
time. But musically, I had piano lessons. My brother had piano lessons. We had guitar lessons, recorder lessons, all sorts of things. So the music was encouraged
Yeah.
from very early age.
Was there records
Uh,
floating about in the house?
uh, Records and cassettes. My mum and dad were quite. Uh, I think that they weren't. Music wasn't so big. They kind of missed the '60s revolution a little bit. Uh, so there was a lot of country and western. There was a lot of radio music. So, chart music,
Yeah. Yeah.
ABBA, stuff like that. But, ABBA's great pop.
Absolutely.
Country and western is great storytelling. Johnny
Yeah.
Cash, all sorts of people.
Yeah.
So it was nice, but we were brought up together, me and Liam from the Sneaker Pimps.
Yeah.
In fact, our mothers were friends before we were born. So he had a brother, an elder brother, and I had an elder brother. We were kind of brought up and it evolved all together.
Yeah.
The musical journey. We started writing very young, 11 or 12.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, I think we made an album where I think I was still 15, I think. Liam had
Yeah.
just gone 16. Yeah.
Love that.
Gave that album to Midua, in fact, backstage at an Ultravox concert on cassette. And he never got in touch.
I'll tell you what, Bob Geldof is featuring heavily. You started off with a wall, and
Yeah, yes.
and then we've talked about the Rats. Now we're talking about Midge, and I know there's another track coming up soon. So yeah, Bob
Yeah,
Geldof, he's worming his way through this episode. Um,
yes.
I'm going to ask you. I mean, you mentioned that you go into Newcastle to go record shopping. I don't know if this was one. I've realised I've just skipped a question, but we'll go back to that question. Tell me the first song you remember buying from a record shop, please, Ian.
Uh, that was Kim Wilde, Checkered Love. In fact, which I believe was not it was 1981. Yes,
Yeah, it would have been.
1981. So it was my last year of primary school
Yeah,
on a school trip somewhere. We always went to the same place.
yeah,
Stopped at a pub and had egg and chips or something.
love it,
And shandy. They let us drink shandy.
love it.
Real shandy. One boy got quite drunk. And he was still doing the same thing when we were 21, this boy. But yeah, I already had Adam and the Ants. I was a big Adam and the Ants fan. Uh, after Kings of the Wild Frontier came out, I think
Yeah.
most kids were, he had the
How
Indians
could you
on the
not be?
look,
I mean,
like
as
Johnny
as
Depp
as a
as Pirates of the Caribbean.
oh mate, I mean, you look at that
Yeah,
that era of music as well. That kind of the turn of the 80s, and it was such a strange explosion when you watch them old retro episodes of Top of the Pops. The amount of styles that you
yeah,
see around the sort of tail end of the 70s and the early 80s, Like whether it's something like seeing Adamant, which for anyone, like how could you not just think he was the coolest man on the planet? Like he had such
Yeah.
a strong look and such a unique sound as well with two drummers and that. It was so
Yes. Yeah.
amazing. And then you had the whole two-tone thing going on, which looks so slick and cool. And then
Oh yeah.
you know, you was getting the sort of tail end of disco, you was getting the early or the carryover of sort of post-punk and new wave, the early murmurings of like new romanticism and that. There was so much going on. It was like, and then in the middle of that, you got fucking Brother of the Man and stuff like that. It was like, you know,
Man,
like,
yes. It's
you know,
oh
you had
my
that kind of like cheesy
yeah.
holiday camp stuff like that, but you know,
Yes.
surrounded by all of these different scenes, and there was you know such tribalism in music, and I think that's something that I think is missing a little now.
Oh, yeah, I remember I was probably about 7 years old on my grifter going to call on a friend after school, and these big kids from the local comprehensive, they stopped me on my bike and they said, "Are you a mod or a punk?" And I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. I was 7 years old. I had no idea. I said, I don't know. Can you let me go, or I'll have to go and find my mum. And they told me to fuck off and they let me go.
Oh, fantastic,
But yeah,
fantastic.
uh, but yes, I mean, there was a lot of faction. I mean, I think basically what happened in the 90s with the probably started with the Manchester scene, but it's all over England,
Mm,
all over all over the United Kingdom.
yeah,
Everyone came together. There wasn't really any factionalism
yeah,
anymore. It didn't matter. Uh, Everything was. Now we've got it again. You go to festivals, people are complaining about pop acts. It's not a rock act. It's not a guitar act. This is rap. Hip hop shouldn't be here. It's like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
Music is a message,
absolutely.
you know?
And you look at that 89, 90, you know, the biggest bands then was, yeah, you had the Rosies and the Mondays, but then, you know, alongside that, you was having, you know, bands like De La Soul, Public Enemy, Soul to Soul,
Yeah.
like
Ah,
Massive Attack. There was like such, and that's without even sort of touching on, you know, the electronic music that was coming through, like the, you know, what was happening in acid house and dance music. It was such an exciting time again, and it
yeah.
was just a real hybrid of styles and genres, and yeah, I don't ever feel like I had to sort of choose back then. I just fucking loved it all.
No. No, and it kind of went. I don't know whether the music was pushing was pushing everything else, but everything was acceptable.
Yeah.
This is why it's like really it was the second summer of love
Oh,
because
100%.
everything was okay. And somehow the reactionists in power and in society, they clawed it all back. We're breaking down on LGBTQ rights, we're breaking down on women's rights to do what they want with their body, you know? And it's like, what is this evangelical trad wife nonsense? I
Yeah.
can't be, we've let it go somehow.
Yeah.
And it's like, but in the 90s and that period, maybe it was the pills, who knows?
That
But
might have
if
had a
that's
little
the
bit.
result, if
Bring them
that's the
back.
result, do that, yeah, my God.
Absolutely. All right. Well, look, I jumped the gun with a question, and I missed out the question where I'm going to ask you to tell me the song that reminds you of your time at school, please.
Uh, it could have been many songs. We always used to sing White Christmas around Christmas time on the
Yep.
bus on the way home, everybody. Uh, Bonnie Tyler, Total Eclipse of the Heart was released when I was in the first year, and we had a 40-minute bus ride. But
Yeah.
I could do a great impression of Bonnie Tyler.
I mean, that's a
Uh,
fucking ambitious vocal, Ian.
yeah, I could do it, but but in the end, I went for because I think it took over everyone's kind of life for a year, more or less. It was the Band-Aids. Do they know it's Christmas?
Gilruth's
Uh,
back again.
yeah, he's back. I always liked him very much, Bob Geldof, and I think everything that he did from Live Aid and after the Michael Hutchence and Paulie Yates, all that terrible stuff.
Yeah.
he stepped up and did the right thing
Yeah.
all the time. I think, okay, he's a shouty, cantankerous Irishman, but at the end of the day, I would rather he was in charge of the world than anyone else.
He was the first guy to play my band on the radio as well, so I got a lot of love
Really?
for him. I got a lot of love for him.
It was great, man. It was very cool. Very cool. But no, he's a great guy. Yeah.
So, tell me about school. Did you enjoy it?
Uh, oof, I was always kind of anxious about all sorts of stuff. Primary school, I really enjoyed. Secondary school, I got a good education. I was sent to a private school in Yarm, like an independent school. It had only been open about 5 years when I went there. My brother went there, and it was pretty much a new school. But it was quite military in outlook. It was quite strict and severe. Uh, it was very and it was quite a bullying, weird environment. Teachers were weirdly sarcastic and quite physically violent to the kids. It
Yeah,
was a private school. You could get the cane, you could get beaten. And that went from the prefects all the way down. Everybody kicked down. It was, but the rebellion was all very nice. This is where it all comes from, you know?
yeah, of course.
But I'd say if I'd told people the stories about what used to happen to us at school, I would say they would say, well, you should go to court over
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But, really, it was quite something.
Did
Uh,
sort of trying to sort of process that at such a young age. Where did that leave you in regards to aspirations for what you wanted to do? Did you know what you wanted to be at that age?
uh, well, once I realised it was not going to play for Manchester City, it was kind of music, Realised, right, I've not actually played for a school team since primary school. I don't think this is going to happen.
Might have to hang up my boots.
Yeah, Uh, but but I always wanted to do it. I'd always started writing songs, and Liam's dad starting to buy him some little equipment to begin with, like a Roland SH-101, a Yamaha CX-5 music computer.
Nice.
And we started doing it, and I just had books and books full of lyrics that were always in verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Uh, and that's always what I wanted to do. I just didn't really do anything about it. Uh, and eventually I just got lucky with the fact that I'd known Liam all my life. I'd been
Yeah,
involved with him and Chris. We'd been working together as teenagers. And after I finished at university, we'd gone our separate ways to college. And they kept going with this instrumental acid jazz kind of stuff, white labels. And then they just came to me and they said, we've got the chance to record an album. We're going to write it with this. We've met this female singer. We're going to be able to release it. We've got a record deal and everything. Do you want to write the words? So I came to it really by accident, like I've done almost everything in my life. Uh, but it's the only thing I ever wanted to be was a songwriter and be
yeah,
involved in music, playing or otherwise. It's just. Uh, I'd happily take a back seat and let other people sing my songs, but
yeah,
my songs are a particular type of lyrics that I don't think people want to say what I'm saying.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, it's a bit full on, maybe.
Well, I mean, let's talk about full-on songs because we're going to go clubbing, and I'm going to ask you to tell me that soundtracked your year's clubbing, please.
It's it's a bit lame, maybe, but it would have to be Spin Spin Sugar by the Sneaker Pimps.
Right, I know it's a fucking tune, mate.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not much of a clubber. I wasn't really much into dance music. Every time I went to, we got together and they'd play me a new song and they'd say, okay, so here's a melody, I've got an idea for a chorus, and they'd be like, it would literally like when Bob Dylan heard Sergeant Pepper, this isn't music. What is this? When they played me the song Becoming X, I went, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it from this world? Is it this planet? What have you done? I was, I couldn't see it at all. So and Spin Spin Sugar, it was supposed to be the fast forward track on the album. We all said this is the one they're going to skip ahead and no one's going to
Really?
like it. And eventually, when we played all the finished album for the record company, One Little Independent as it is now, the guy who became our manager, Craig, he said, "Well, it's good, it's good. There's only the one of the new four that you've played us that has a hook or anything." And he's like, "Oh, he's going to say Tesco Suicide because he's got a big chorus." And he said, "Spin Spin Sugar." And it was like, really? That's what the record company marketing guy basically says is going to be the hit.
Yeah.
We couldn't see that at all, but it became just along with Six Underground,
Yeah.
it's the one of the two songs people remember.
So what was it like to hear you know, something that, you as a major creative element of it blaring through a system in a club?
At that age, at that age, it's halfway between, it was a little bit like John Travolta strutting after staying alive, you know. It was like it's all internally, because I'm not very I'm quite humble, but it was amazing. But how are you supposed to react? You
Yeah.
can't really. I'm not really a look at me.
Yeah.
It's so, but inside it was incredible. It was a stunning experience,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know.
ultimately, to see people responding to your music, there can be nothing better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In that, and in the most positive way, in the most positive environment,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Uh,
Fantastic. Well, from the club, let's take you home, and I'm going to ask you to tell me your favourite song from an artist from your home county, please.
okay. Well, I did cheat a little bit and chose the area rather than
Okay.
the county. The county keeps changing. Hartlepool is a unitary authority now. It
Yeah.
used to be Cleveland. Uh, it before that it was Durham. It doesn't know where it is. So basically, I've gone for an artist from Newcastle because that is basically it's like our state capital.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. So and it's a cool city. It's a brilliant city. And I picked uh De Blonde. Do you know this girl?
I do. Yeah. And
Yeah.
do you want to sort of tell the listeners a little bit about her?
Yeah, I mean, she's a Newcastle girl. She started recording, I think, in about 2016. She's basically been releasing albums for about 10 years. She's had four. And she's wildly kind of punk in ethic, I
Yeah.
think. She's what my mum would call way out in the way she looks. But it's a modern word. But this is I think this girl is up there with people like Kate Bush. You're going to talk about big artists who can do anything they like. You're talking Kate Bush, Prince, someone who can do anything he wants.
Yeah.
And this girl is really up there. She writes incredible songs, is very punk, is very aggressive, but it's really beautiful at the same time. She can flip, between something on piano, really melodic, and then literally in the next bar, she's gone full on
Yeah.
sort of punk rock, hell for leather.
Yeah.
And she's just really interesting and fascinating, in
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. We need more of that. We need more of that in
Yeah,
music. And,
yeah, absolutely.
well, look, it's your last track in, and I'm going to ask you to tell the listeners of the show a song that you think many may not know that you would like them to hear.
I have no idea if people know this track or not. I think they might be Belgian or they might be from somewhere else, Netherlands. Uh, the band is called Zeta Swoon, and the song is called Hot, Hotter, Hottest. Uh, and it's just an incredible song about a guy pacing around his room and waking up and not being in a nice place. Probably it sounds like after the end of a breakup.
Yeah.
Uh, when I arrived in France, I was still drinking. I was still a bit of an alcoholic. 2016. I
Yeah.
was a dreadful alcoholic. I spent 7 years in hell prior to, and I quit in 2017 because just because my life changed. I came to France and I was in a much happier place. I was much more positive. Things in England were tough. It was very hard for me to work. I had short contracts helping autistic children, but it was I was moving around the country. I was unsettled, and I just it was difficult,
Yeah.
particularly the last 2 years. I took it to be about a song about a guy who's an alcoholic,
Yeah.
basically. And it just kind of set me thinking that I knew it had to stop, and in the end, I managed it,
Yeah.
luckily, you know. But
Congratulations, mate. It's amazing.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's 9 years now, 9 years, 10 years next year. Um, but I think basically, Emily is a good DJ. Emily is my wife, and she loves to play songs. So I like to come home from work. I finish quite late, and she will just choose stuff and play it to me. And it's always different. It's always like songs that I've never heard. She has a huge taste. And me, I'm really just a writer. My music taste is what it is. It doesn't
Yeah.
really change. If someone recommends something, I will listen to it, and it's like, okay. But I'm not really much of a passive consumer of music,
Yeah.
if you like. You'll find me reading a book
Yeah.
or watching a documentary more than you will listening to a band, to be fair.
Sure.
Uh, so she played me that, and this is one of the first things she played me. And it was just, okay, it's incredible. And it's one of the things I think that set me off to pick up and start recording songs properly again. I had a
Yeah.
lot of demos, a lot of just songs on acoustic guitar, and I thought, okay, I have to up my game again and do something, you know?
And you did. And where are we at with
Yes,
it now? So what's
there
been
we are.
happening?
Uh, well, that's it. I mean, I started about 20, I started properly in about 2018. That's when I really started writing again in France and finishing things, which is
Yeah.
hard when you're drunk. You know, you start everything, you listen to it on repeat, very proud of
Yeah.
yourself, and then in the morning you forget everything you were doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, but and basically I wrote two albums very, very quickly, and I still haven't finished recording them or releasing them because that was the plan, and then the pandemic arrived in
Okay.
2020. And so everything kind of shut down. And so I kind of had to turn very quickly and just work in a different way. So I started releasing just a couple of EPs in the pandemic. And eventually I just sort of released one album, which was those EPs and some more songs. And that kind of drew a line under that period. And this is like the new phase. So this album is kind of a new phase. It carries on from 2024, which was an EP called Come and Join the Beautiful Army. And it's just kind of it's all a continuation now for this album and the next album. Uh, this is another section of work. It's like being an artist. You have your blue periods, you have your,
Of course.
it's like that. So I think after this next album, this phase is finished and it's something else. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then if people want to find out all about releases and such, like where's the best place for people to sort of keep up to speed and with what's going on?
I'll say the website and Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Bandcamp is seems to be the hub that is best for the musicians these
Yeah.
days. It's all very confusing, the music business, isn't it? It's like, okay, it looks like it's been spread to the four winds,
Yeah.
unless you're part of the machine and you go
Absolutely.
it's very hard for independent artists, I think. And like when we were young, we had the independent charts, and it was things like, it was New Order at number one and Depeche Mode at number one all the
Yeah.
time. It was all your favorite stuff,
Yeah.
but it got swallowed very quickly into the mainstream.
Well, unfortunately, Factory got bought, Mute Records got bought by the big boys, and
Yeah,
that's what happens, unfortunately, isn't it? And
yeah, absolutely,
uh,
absolutely.
yeah, but well, look, what we'll do, if it's cool with you, Ian, when we release the show,
Yeah,
in the show notes, we'll put links to the Bandcamp and the website, so we'll make it nice and easy for people to go and explore what you're doing, and
oh, yeah.
and yeah, and get in touch, and yeah, and get involved with your music.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That'd be great. Yeah, yeah. I got to take it live. I'm sort of working on that now,
Yeah,
trying to work out how to do it live, but trying to work out how to do it free for everybody.
yeah. That's very generous.
Yeah, I don't really care if people buy the album. I'd rather they listen to it.
Yeah,
Um, I'm so sick of hearing about Ticketmaster and Celine Dion concert tickets for 3 grand.
yeah,
You think she'd play and say thank you to everyone for all the well wishes and everything, you
yeah.
know?
For all the millions of free grand she's got in her bank account.
You know, you can afford to give, you know?
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely,
you know.
absolutely. But
So
it's normally those with the most that still want the most. But
seemingly,
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Um, Ian, it's been an absolute delight talking records
Uh,
with you, mate. I really
oh, it's
appreciate you
great,
giving up your
Stu.
time and swinging by for a chat, mate. It's been an absolute
Okay.
joy.
No problem. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the night.
I will do so. I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.